What is going on, guys? It's Sloppy Saturdays back here with another episode. And today we're going over a little bit of a hypothetical type episode, which can be dangerous. We're highlighting the 2026 quarterback draft class, which we believe is absolutely loaded, and why the Saints made a mistake going for Tyler Shough early in the second round of this year's draft because they could finish atop of next year's draft. If anybody knows anything about the Saints, they are way over the cap. They're kind of in a rebuilding type mode, but it's kind of weird to have some veterans with them. I mean, talk about Kamara, talk about Olave, others. So they're in a weird type of situation. They're in a pretty bad division. But when we look at their win total on FanDuel, on DraftKings, they have one of the lowest win totals in the NFL. They are supposed to be a bottom three team in the NFL. And they just talked a quarterback in the NFL draft that I completely disagree with. I said it. I thought it was the worst pick in the entire draft. When we look at Tyler Shough, we're looking at a guy that's been through multiple injuries. But not only that, we're looking at a guy that's going into the NFL season next year at 26 years old. So you took this guy in the second round. He's going to be 26 years old. And not only that, we're not talking about a guy that was a generational prospect. We're not talking about a guy that was one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Not only that, goes through a multitude of injuries with the age on top of it. The pick just never made any sense to me. The only thing that made sense to me about this pick was the hype of him going into the draft. Like, he was rumored to be a back-end first round, second round draft pick. I don't understand why he was. Again, I watched Louisville all season. Don't understand it. He never stood out to me. Again, didn't finish the top of the ACC at all, which was a fairly weak conference. Again, like we said, with his age, is going to be such a short timetable for him to hit his ceiling. Like, he's going to be 26 as a rookie. You're going to really have only a year with him to figure it out in the situation you're in. Because a guy like Tyler Shough that's going to be 26 on a bad team, this team gets a top pick next year, Tyler Shough is out the window. Like, we've seen first round draft picks only have a year and a half to really prove themselves. A second round draft pick, we've seen it with Will Levis. He only had a year and a half to really prove himself. Then Cam Moore steps in. For Tyler Shough, I think it's going to be even shorter, not only because of his age, but where the Saints are at. Saints get a top 5 pick. I do not see Tyler Shough being the quarterback. Now, the reason why I say this as well is because there are 2 quarterbacks that are going to go very high in next year's draft that are at least rumored to be. Again, this is a very dangerous episode. The draft always changes. Last year, we were looking at Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, and others being first-round draft picks. It didn't happen. We know how much could change over a year from these early mock drafts. But 2 guys I am really high on have New Orleans Saints ties. We look at Arch Manning and we look at Garrett Nussmeier. Now, Arch Manning, I really don't understand what's going on with him. I thought this guy was definitely going to be the first overall pick next year if he were to come out. Now, that's the biggest question mark with Arch Manning. Is he going to stay 1 more year? Is he going to stay 2 more years? Because this is the first time as a full-time starter. Again, we all know the story with Arch Manning. He could have started at pretty much any other program, but he goes to Texas, sits behind Quinn Ewers. Now this is his first full year starting. Is he going to want to come out with only 1 year on tape? There's been rumors that he's going to stay for 2 years, that his grandfather wants to stay for 2 years. But if he comes out next year, I do not see any other way that this guy is not the first overall pick. If he has a solid year in the SEC with his pedigree, and again, his intangibles, he has a great deep ball. He's a great runner of the football as well. We've seen Texas put him in plays last year to run the football. And I just think with all the hype around him, I don't see a way he isn't the first overall pick. With his potential, how polished he is, his deep ball, his ability to run the football, and him playing a full year playing well, I don't see him as a first round pick. And I don't see how Saints have the number 1 overall pick. They pass him up if he's in the draft. Not only the ties with Archie, but again, this was a prospect that people have been salivating over for the last 2 years. If he puts 1 year of great football on tape, again, I think he can only lose the first round pick with a bad year. I think right now he's definitely the first overall pick. And I absolutely love it. I thought Arch Manning should have started late last year as well. I thought Steve Sarkisian made a pretty bad decision keeping going with Quinn Ewers. I get it. They had due diligence to Quinn Ewers to make him an NFL quarterback, and he barely got there as he did go in the 7th round. But I thought they should have started Arch Manning. I thought every time Arch Manning played, he brought a different element to his offense. He brought a spark to that offense. Not only is he a better runner than Quinn Ewers, but again, they were able to stretch the field out a lot more with him. It's going to be interesting to see how Arch Manning performed this year. Again, Texas is going to be a solid team. We know that. They're going to be a contender, but they did lose a lot. When you talk about Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond, Gunnar Helm, a lot of weapons on his offense were lost. They're going to have Wingo again for another year. He's going to be their leading weapon, in my opinion. And then we'll see who else steps up for Texas. But Arch Manning, again, he's going to be the first overall pick, in my opinion. I think there's no doubt about it. Like I said, the pedigree, the deep ball, the ability to run, just got to get consistent in the intermediate game and put more on tape. And if the Saints have the number 1 pick, you could say goodbye to Tyler Shough. Next guy up, we have Garrett Nussmeier. Now, everybody knows the thing about Garrett Nussmeier with his ties with the Saints. Again, his dad is the OC of the Saints now. And Garrett Nussmeier is an absolute stud. We were talking about a gunslinger. His size is good at 6'2", 200 pounds. Last year, 4,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 80 QBR rating, 10th in the country. LSU didn't make the college football playoffs last year, which I thought, again, they had opportunities to get in. But Garrett Nussmeier was really learning as his first year as a starter. And I really thought this was an LSU team that lost a lot. I mean, you're talking about Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and then obviously Jaden Daniels. This offense really was just completely revamped. Leading receiver, Kyron Lacey, RIP. And then you also had Mason Taylor as well. I think this was the best weapons for LSU. But not only that, Garrett Nussmeier, like I said, he was learning. I think this year he's going to get more consistent and calculate his risk a little more because, like I said, Garrett Nussmeier is an absolute gunslinger. This guy, if you compare his difficult throws to anybody in college football or even anybody in the NFL, this guy makes tougher throws than anybody. Arm talent is top of the charts. Again, we just have to see him put LSU in the college football playoffs and really be more consistent. But if the Saints have a top 5 pick and this guy has a great year with his dad as the OC, I don't think they're sticking with 26-year-old Tyler Shough. I don't think they're sticking with Tyler Shough. Again, Tyler Shough has a great year. This whole video goes to waste. But again, he has a lot of pressure for 1 year. Now we're going to highlight the 3 other quarterbacks. I really wanted to highlight Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier as these possible options because they do have the New Orleans ties. But let's highlight the other 3. You go with Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik is rumored to be a top 15 pick in the NFL draft. He is not somebody I have ever been a fan of. Again, I don't think he took Clemson to where they needed to be. They ended up sneaking into the college football playoffs, which was crazy in this scenario with their losses, how they ended up making it in because they won the ACC championship. He played a great game in that game. But again, against Texas, they were out right away. He had 3,600 yards, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 78.7 QBR. I would like to see Cade Klubnik take another step up, become a true Heisman candidate, really make a mark in the college football playoffs, possibly win a game. But I don't think Cade Klubnik has been in the best situation either. I think Dabo Swinney is getting way too much love nowadays. Again, he's really banking off that Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence championships. But he does not seem to fit the new age of college football. They aren't using the transfer portal, which I think is a complete disadvantage to Cade Klubnik. And they're really only using homegrown talent, which I don't like. So I don't think Cade Klubnik is in the best situation at all. But in an open ACC, I would like him to take another step up. Next, we're going with Drew Aller. Drew Aller is somebody I absolutely love. If anybody knows me, they know how much I love Drew Aller. I like Drew Aller a little more than Garrett Nussmeier. So we might see Drew Aller go before Garrett Nussmeier. It's going to be interesting to see what the Saints would do if these guys were close in prospect, like I said, with Garrett Nussmeier's dad as the OC. But Drew Aller, a guy that I just think had an unfair shake in college football. I think he gets way too much hate. This guy never had a true vertical threat in his college football career. And I think this year he's going to have his best receiving core. And I think he's going to have his best chance, not only because he was going to be a top pick in this year's draft and he decided to stay. So he's going to have another year of development. I mean, you're technically putting a first-round pick in this year's draft back in college football. But again, I just think Penn State is going to have their best team they had in a while. The fact that they had all these guys come back, Dennis Sutton, the they're in a position to really dominate. And I think Drew Aller is really going to take hold of this offense. Again, it's going to be tough with two NFL backs. How much is he really going to be able to throw? But I think Drew Aller at 6'5", 238 pounds, you have to love the size. The arm talent is unreal. This guy, when you talk about ceiling for NFL draft prospects, this is what you're looking for. A young guy, huge, great size, huge arm. I just think he needs to put more on tape and take more of a hold of this Penn State offense, and he will receive less hate. I think this is a true Heisman candidate, and I think Penn State is really going to be at the top of national championship odds. And the last guy, we're going with Lenore Seller. Now, Lenore Seller is kind of your classic project QB, but this guy has possibly the highest ceiling of anybody in this draft class. When you look at Lenore Seller, what he's able to do at his size, 6'3", 242 pounds, I was able to run the football, had over 700 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground last year. He also has a great deep ball as well. But like any project QB, he has to be more consistent in his short and intermediate throws, his every down type of play throws. That's what he has to be more consistent in. Again, I didn't think he had much help on the South Carolina offense. Thought they did drop a lot of passes on him, but he's going to be an interesting prospect. Again, these type of project QBs, their last year really matters. He could either skyrocket on his board, or again, we could be talking about him next April as being a 4th-round pick. Very interesting pick. Now, like I said, Tyler Shough is going to have 1 year, in my opinion, to really prove himself. I think he's going to be the starter in New Orleans. It's going to be interesting, though. Derek Carr injured. Doesn't really seem like he wants to be there. And then Spencer Rattler, another guy that in college football was super hyped. Is he going to start? Is Tyler Shough going to start? I think New Orleans is going to do its due diligence, put Tyler Shough in early in the season, even if he doesn't start the first game. Because, like I said, this is a team that could be picking top 10 in a loaded QB class with ties to some of these quarterbacks. That wraps up this episode of Sloppy Saturdays, and we are out.